Got so many new fragrances for the month of November, and these happen to be my favorite pickups, so stay tuned. Yo, what's good guys? Hunter here and welcome back to the channel where I upload a weekly fragrance contest. You already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any future videos, and be sure to follow me over on my Instagram page. But guys, I decided to do a new series on my channel where I basically run down my favorite fragrance pickups or discoveries of the entire month. And I thought this would be a good idea because I do get a lot of fragrances in, but the ones that will make this video were my absolute favorites for the month. And for the month of November, I did get 7 new fragrances that I do want to show you guys and talk about because they were my absolute favorites. And this list won't be in any particular order, like my favorite to my least favorite or anything like that. Just all in all, in general, my favorite discoveries this month. So let's get right into it. The first fragrance I want to talk about was one that got a ton of hype that came out earlier in the month, and it is Afnan Supremacy Collector's Edition, which I did review immediately when it first came out. I might have been one of the first to review this actually. And of course, most of us know all about the Supremacy line. Most of them are inspired by the Aventus DNA, like Not Only Intense, which is kind of a hybrid with hacivat and aventus. And then of course you also have Supremacy in Silver, which is actually very similar to aventus, like very fruity. This one though kind of just takes that aventus DNA and makes it the absolute best that Afnan can possibly do with this scent profile, and they did a fantastic job, guys. I think this is actually my favorite in the line as of now because it's actually that good. Of course, you get that pineapple that's extremely juicy, vibrant, very natural smelling, which did surprise me, so it's very well made, along with that smoky birch kind of signature touch with some ambergris and a little bit of oak moss. I know a lot of people think this was inspired by Absolute Aventus, which unfortunately I'm not that familiar with that scent profile, but I'm pretty sure that's heavy on like grapefruit if I'm not mistaken rather than pineapple, but you definitely get a heavy dose of pineapple in this one. It's sort of the same thing that Armaf did with Club de Nuit Intense Man limited edition parfum. They just basically took that scent profile and just made it the absolute best possible. And this bottle is absolutely beautiful. It is hand painted as well with the splatters on it, and it has that concrete sort of finish. And these are actually hitting discounters now at a very reasonable price for the kind of fragrance you're getting, so you might want to hop on that. So this one was absolutely worthy of making my favorite pickups for November without a doubt. Now the next fragrance up is actually a Lattafa. There's actually 3 Lattafas in this pickup, guys, because I went on a Lattafa kind of spree pretty much when I was hitting rack stores. I had to pick up almost every Lattafa I came across because why not? It's honestly one of the best bangs for your bucks right now. And this one in particular is Assad Zanzibar, which is of course a flanker of the very popular Assad, which did come out, I believe, earlier this year or maybe late last year. It is fairly new. I got mine over at Burlington. The moment I saw it sit on the shelves, I didn't even have to think twice about it. I just scooped it up immediately because me personally, I'm a huge fan of the original Assad, which is extremely similar to Dior Sauvage Elixir. Of course, a little bit more synthetic, not as strong either, but man, it nails that scent profile down to a T. This one though is completely different. Surprisingly, this is actually very tropical with this coconut note that isn't too like sunscreen lotion type of coconut, which is fantastic. It's more like a creamy kind of bright, almost more of the coconut shell vibe is what I get, mixed together with this very warm, comforting vanilla, which just makes for an awesome kind of mixture of notes, guys, that for me personally, I think is extremely unique. I haven't really seen anything compared to this. I haven't smelled anything that is so similar to this DNA either, besides possibly like Parfums of Molly Layton. For some reason, I do get that vibe with this, and it might be coming from the way the lavender is done in Assad Zanzibar. You are going to get a very kind of aromatic, spicy lavender in the opening with a little bit of pepper as well. It does dry down extremely tropical from the coconut, a little bit of iris, and you have that warm, spicy vanilla in the base. Honestly, I think for the price, you cannot beat this whatsoever, and is one of my favorites from Lattafa so far, which is why this one had to make the list as well. Next up is another Lattafa banger, which is Amir Oud Intense Oud, which I recently just dropped my review of this bad boy because this is based off of one of my favorite winter fragrances of all time, which is Maison Margiela's By the Fireplace. I cannot live without that fragrance during a snowy kind of winter day. However, this one kind of tones down on the nutty qualities you get from that hazelnut in By the Fireplace and kind of substitutes it with this very sweet, more heavy on the vanilla in here as well, and just all in all extremely woody. I will say though, there is oud in here also, which is that more Middle Eastern, a little bit funky of a oud, but not so much on the barnyardy side where it's completely unpleasant to a lot of people. I think most people will actually still enjoy this one without a doubt. I do warn you though, in the opening of this one, it does come across very harsh and kind of chemically, so be cautious of that for maybe the first couple of like minutes. Once you get past that harsh opening, this stuff dries down into a beauty. And again, for the price, I think this might even be one of the cheapest Lattafas. I think right now I have it tagged for around like 17 bucks, which I can't even wrap my mind around how you can get this fragrance right here in my hand for $17, guys. So if you're looking for a sexy, kind of seductive fall winter banger at a very affordable price, you have to check out Lattafa Amir Al Oud Intense Oud, and that name is a mouthful. Now the last Lattafa, but certainly not least in this pickup video, guys, is Lattafa Sug Rad, which I think that's how you pronounce it, and that name is bizarre. I have no idea what that means, but it is kind of funny. This though did surprise me. I had no idea anything about this fragrance whatsoever when I seen it at the rat stores. Of course, I had to scoop it up though, and to my surprise, guys, this one did shock me because it is somewhat similar to like Acqua di Gio Profumo or Acqua di Gio Parfum, of course, which are also kind of similar in and of its own. There's just something about this though. I think it might be even a little bit more aromatic. You do have the lavender in here. I think you have some violet leaf as well. But what I love most about this is that ginger note, guys. Ginger's become one of my favorite notes of all time. It's actually in both of my signature scents, Bulgari Tiger and Louis Vuitton L'Immensité. I just love ginger in fragrances, which is kind of odd because maybe a few years ago, wasn't the biggest fan of ginger until I think I tried Tumi's Atlas, I believe, which got me hooked on ginger. I gotta say, the way it's done in here is amazing, especially at the price. Like I keep saying about these Lattafas, guys, just an amazing house if you are on a budget, man. You really cannot go wrong with these at all, especially this one. This is probably the most kind of versatile signature scent worthy Lattafa in this video today compared to the other two. You can wear this one all year round, all seasons, any occasion, going to work, going on a date, going to the gym, chilling at home. It just works anytime, anywhere, which is why this one absolutely had to make the list as well. And I did pick up some other Lattafas that didn't make the list, so these three were my favorites from this house this month. The next fragrance up on the list was a surprise because I ran into this fragrance, I believe at Marshall's. It was locked up and I just had to get it, and it is Commodity Leather, guys. Now honestly, I haven't been seeing commodities pop up at rack stores since maybe like 2 or 3 years ago when I first started my YouTube journey, is when I was always hitting up rack stores trying to pick up commodities. I believe I got Bergamot and Vetiver at the rack stores. Leather, however, was one I always wanted to try, and of course I believe it is discontinued now. Maybe, or Commodity might have brought them back on their websites. I'm not quite sure because these are in the older style bottles, of course, because Commodity had a complete refresh on their brand entirely. I also believe these used to be in the kind of gray see-through bottles as well, and they did revamp them into these black bottles you see in my hand. But guys, leather right here, if you love very dark kind of animalic, smoky, rugged leather fragrances that are ultra masculine, this is it right here in my hands without a doubt. One of the darkest leathers in my entire collection because it is mixed together with some green nuances, also a ton of resin such as myrrh, which is one of my favorite resinous notes of all time, along with styrax, and you have that smoky kind of leathery alabanum in the base also. And this is very similar to John Varvatos' Dark Rebel and maybe even Dark Rebel Rider, which got a ton of hype maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and they are discontinued and pretty expensive now. So if you always loved Dark Rebel from John Varvatos, but you want a substitute because it is completely gone, absolutely try leather. You will not be disappointed. Yeah, this stuff is amazing. I actually wore this a few times already since getting the bottle in. It just works so good if you're wearing like a nice leather jacket. It's extremely cold outside. This also pushes through the cold flawlessly. Very, very potent. Be cautious though, because not everybody's gonna like this because like I said, it's a very dark, rugged, animalic, smoky leather fragrance. But if that sounds like something you would enjoy like myself, absolutely check out Commodities Leather. Next one on the list is actually from Superz Budapest because I got so many new Superz fragrances in. They were having so many deals, etc. This one, however, I wanted to just include one, of course. This was my absolute favorite from that haul, and it is 1723. If you caught my ranking video and even my weekly fragrance rotation video, you would see how much I love this fragrance, guys. One of my favorite Superz, hands down, and just keeps growing on me by the moment. It is in the realm of Parfums of Marley's Layton, which is my favorite PDM. I do own a bottle right behind me. That's always been a staple for me, guys, during like the colder weather, especially like date nights. It has that very kind of sweet, warming, sexy apple pie vibe about it with the apple, vanilla, lavender, etc. But I will say, I think this is more crowd pleasing than Layton itself, because it doesn't really have that Vicks Vapor Rub vibe that Layton gives off in the opening that a lot of people talk about. Actually much smoother than Layton. I can't say right now if I prefer it over Layton, but man, it's definitely on par. And if you're a fan of Superz like myself, I think this is a must-have in the collection. And I believe as well, one of the newer lineups in their collection right now. And if you want to check out any Superz or 1723 in particular, you can use code HUNTER10 to save 10% off at checkout to get you a little bit of savings on Superz Budapest, because these things are no joke, guys, and are absolute worth the hype, because they have so many bangers. I could talk about so many of them, of course, but if you want to see more about this brand, go check out my ranking video, and you can also see where I ranked 1723, because this stuff is amazing. Last but certainly not least, and might even be one of my favorite discoveries this year so far, and it is Bouchard Colbert's Knife Thrower, guys. Just look at that bottle. Look at that name. This stuff is amazing. And I say last but not least because I did just get this in later on in November, so it almost didn't even make this list, to be honest. But I'm glad it did, because I could talk about it even more, guys, because it is very similar to like my signature scents, Bulgari Tiger, Louis Vuitton La Mentite. You are going to get that kind of grapefruit ginger combination. Very fresh, very uplifting, a little bit spicy. It also kind of has this watery aquatic tone going throughout the DNA as well, but it dries down completely different than any of those other fragrances I just listed, which I'm a big fan of. I think this might be my favorite DNA when it comes to perfumes in general, that grapefruit ginger combination, which is why I always sort of gravitate towards that scent profile for my signature, because I just resonate with this DNA so much. What makes this one extremely unique and stand out is the way it dries down, because it dries down into this very green, earthy fern note, which I think just works perfectly combined with everything else going on in Knife Thrower. I also believe this fragrance is brand new, and this house is brand new as well. They do have quite a few in their lineup, but this one in particular was by far my favorite. The moment I got a sample of this one, I fell in love with it immediately. Actually, I'm such a big fan of Knife Thrower that I have a travel spray in my car just in case I need to re-up on a fragrance to smell good, or I forgot to apply something, which rarely ever happens, but you never know, it could. So if you're somebody that enjoys Bulgari Tiger, Louis Vuitton La Mentite, maybe even Sospiro Vibrato, since they are all very similar with their slight differences between each one, you have to do yourself a favor and check out Knife Thrower. At least get a sample, a travel spray of it, or something to get your nose on it, because I think if you have the same taste as me, you'll fall in love with it just like I did. And also, I believe you can use code HUNTER10 on the website to save 10% off as well, because these aren't inexpensive fragrances. They are niche, of course, and just works of art. Every single one of them were very, very different and did stand out, but Knife Thrower was the #1 pick for me from Bouchard Colbert. So that's gonna do it for my favorite pickups for the month of November 2024. Let me know down below if you guys like this series, because next month, of course, I'll do my favorite pickups of December, and so on and so forth. So hopefully I start getting some new fragrances in and fall in love with some new stuff to share with you guys. And also leave a comment down below your favorite pickups for the month as well, because I know all you guys are getting new bangers in and even getting me on the new stuff that I've never even heard of as well. So leave a comment about that below, and also leave a like, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and of course I'll catch all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.